I get marketing emails from like various different companies, and I got this 6 week challenge offer come into my inbox the other day, and the angle was, let's all focus, let's put some hard work in before 2025, and then let's allow ourselves to gain 2 to 5 kilos between Christmas Day and New Year's, guilt free. And I thought to myself, that's an interesting like messaging, a line of messaging of like, yeah, let's just go hard and then let's gain weight. And I thought that's just a micro yo-yo cycle, but it's a fairly successful fitness influencer promoting this messaging. And I just thought that's quite interesting seeing that the night before I'm recording this podcast with you, Ivan.
Yeah.
Let's get your thoughts on that sort of messaging.
Yeah, that is a very interesting message. I understand the appeal of it. It sounds very fun for like a lot of people to be like, yeah, let's go really, really hard over these next few weeks, and then yeah, we can regain that weight guilt free. I just think it's sending the wrong message with regards to long-term sustainability and how we want people, or how we ideally think people should be approaching these holiday seasons. Not so we shouldn't be encouraging, hey, you can gain all this weight guilt-free. You shouldn't be feeling guilt regardless, but we'll talk about that later on. But I think equipping people with the tools on how to just navigate these periods effectively, guilt-free, and still come out the other end in a good spot in my opinion, is a much better solution to get people handling these situations more effectively, because that's also in my view, that's instilling that whole instant gratification, short-term fix, short-term mindset with regards to health and fitness, or that yo-yoing is a good idea and it's fun, and that it's just expected that over the holiday period you gain 4 or 5 kilos because that's what you should do. That's what's expected. And I think we can flip that on its head and be like, well, what if we just prepare effectively? We go in with the right mindset, we manage things appropriately. You can still enjoy your time with friends and family. Guess what, guys? You can still have fun with over the holiday period without gaining 4 or 5 kilos and letting all of your, 3S's go by the wayside. You can actually still enjoy time with friends and family and come out the other end in a good spot. So I don't know why they have to be two mutually exclusive things. What do you think?
Well, I think the key message I want to get across in this podcast is, yeah, we don't need to apply a crazy 4 week run up so we can bank kilos in the Christmas period, and that we should try and use this as an opportunity and a challenge to actually continue to get results, whether that's maintenance, whether that's strength building, whatever the goal is, weight loss, in the next 6 weeks, and treat it like anything, like it would normally. And maybe make this the first time you approach a Christmas event, Thanksgiving, staff parties, as just another event. Like it's just another event. You're doing it because of enjoying moments with your family and friends, and not as an opportunity to see how much of the turkey you can get down your stomach, which it becomes a thing, right? It's like it's a badge of honor to like, oh yeah, I polished this much food, polished that much alcohol. But if you can come out the other side almost unaffected, but in a good spot to like continue momentum in 2025, I think that's when like people start getting breakthroughs, whereby when they go on holiday, when they have social events, there's not this fear that starts to come. Because when you've got that fear and you think, oh shit, the holidays are around the corner, I've got this coming up, that's when all these like destructive behaviors start becoming a normal part of your lifestyle. Like there's a difference between like pushing hard for a photo shoot or a checkpoint when we've got the stakes are high. But if you're doing that all the time just because you've got this event, you got this holiday, then you just got this unhealthy relationship with food, kidding yourself that it is a healthy relationship with food, but it's not. And you're just in these micro yo-yo cycles, even if you're like maintaining weight, you're just sort of hacking the game, as we call it.
Yeah.
And we want to break away from that, because I don't know about you, but I'm not sitting there in fear of like what's coming up. I'm thinking, well, what's my Christmas strategy this year? Because after you've done it enough time, but it's not to say I haven't had that, because I have had that in the past. Like I used to do hill sprints on Christmas. I used to go to the local hill and do hill sprints before Christmas lunch, so that I can feel like my insulin and receptors are ready to take on the carbs coming in today. So I've done it all, right? I'm sure you have as well.
Yeah. No, it's exactly right. I think for most people, it's not about not being scared of these moments. The thing is, what I see a lot is the anxiety, the guilt, and the fear just really remove the joy out of these events too, which I think is ridiculous, you know. And there's no reason that you can't go into these events. Remember, if this is your first time, if you're with us or you're on your own fitness journey, and this is your first time approaching the holiday season, remember, if you can navigate this period, this is really going to set you up for a very successful 2025 for sure, you know. And is that going to require some effort first up? Of course it is. You know, we just mentioned that we were guilty of trying all these things to make sure that we progress during that period, and we were trying to be like, oh, we still want to eat as much as possible and still keep our results, and we'll try to just do as much activity as possible, do this intermittent fasting stuff, and by trying to hack the system, we ended up just creating a very unhealthy relationship with food in general. And that has allowed, we've obviously evolved over time. We've worked with many clients on how to navigate this period effectively. And now, yeah, you're right. Like, I haven't even thought about, what's my Christmas plan, what's my holiday plan or whatever. It's just like, I'm just going to show up. I'm going to select a portion that's appropriate for me at the time. Hopefully there's some protein there. Hopefully there's some other helpful dishes there that's going to suit my goals, and guess what, I'm not going to make it about the food. I actually want to go there to talk to my friends, to talk to my family, and spend time with them. I don't understand where this connection of spending time with friends and family also means having an eating competition. I find that whole dilemma super strange, but it's everywhere.
Yeah. As in, I think there's the whole thing around like breaking bread, right? I think there's something about like enjoying food with people that is a thing. But I think it's when it becomes like, yeah, let's just keep it. Let's turn enjoyment into gluttony. I think that's where it gets. When you're just sitting there, we've all felt that. We felt like we've got a rock in our stomach, can barely move. You just feel uncomfortable. You're laying in bed and you're burping up like food, and it just feels.
You're finishing food just because it's there. It's in front of you. And you're just eating because it's there. Got to finish it.
Yeah, we got to finish it mentality, because obviously like everyone over prepares. When they go to these events like Thanksgiving or Christmas, or we just had Diwali. These people over prepare. They don't just get the amount that people actually need to eat. There's more than enough for like 5 days, right? So it's like, can you fit it all in?
5 hours.
5 hours. I think the key mindset shift that's helped me over the years is it's something, and these like sound so simple. One is I can't control what might be at the table, but I can always control how much goes in my mouth.
Always.
And I think the second one, and one we've spoken about a lot, is the food will always be there. Yeah. I think it sounds so simple, but it's like that. Those two things have really helped me. Like, I'm going on an all-inclusive for 10 days, and I've not once thought, oh my God, I'm at an all-inclusive. How am I going to manage this? In my head, it's like, it's probably actually going to be easier because I don't have to worry about where I'm going to get the food from. Normally I have to think, I have to go find this place, find that place. All I did is just email them saying, have you got some vegan options? They said, yeah. So it's like, great. So now I've got food on tap. I don't have to cook anything. I don't have to prepare anything. Just take my portion and then just get on with the day. And because also I hate how it feels to feel overfull or feel stuffed. I really despise that feeling. I think because I've gone through so many periods of overeating and just feeling horrible for it, I almost have a fear of feeling that feeling. And I know how horrible it makes me feel. So I just think there's no need to ever go there, because there's a point of diminishing returns where you're just destroying yourself. Like it's self-harm almost.
Yeah. And it's just reinforcing that identity of someone who stuffs themselves, who's someone who, can't control their nutrition, this and that. And it's like, again, it's not a, if you overeat, it doesn't make you a bad person or anything like that. We're not saying that. It's more so just that type of behavior. Then exactly. You just end up feeling worse. I've never heard anyone the day after overeating being like, I'm glad I did that. I've never heard anyone the next day be like, guess what, Ivan, I smashed 10,000 calories and I feel amazing. I needed that. Thanks. Like, no one ever wakes up the next day and says that, but I think, if people can learn to start to think about that type of stuff. And as you were talking about the all-inclusive there, I've conversed with a few new members who are coming up. They'll go into resorts and all-inclusives, and they were super scared. They were like, I'm going to an all-inclusive. I'm so fearful. But if you frame it in the other way, you'd be like, you're in an all-inclusive. That means you have access to great food as well. You actually have access to your healthy options that you can go for that are pretty much in line with what you have at home. How good is that? But no one thinks of it that way. All they think about is, well, there's all this other temptation there. And I get that, but if you approach it from from a challenge perspective and you see the positives in the whole situation, I think you're just going to be able to navigate it a lot more effectively. And another on that as well is not expecting like perfection. You know, I think people fall into this black or white mentality, and you know, this is something that I think we've evolved massively over the years of, you know, not letting one treat turn into 10 treats, 20, 30. It's more so like 40. It's just it's you know, one thing that I spoke about on the masterclass yesterday for our members was sort of like planned deviations, right? So if you know that you're going to an event and you have something that you really want to have, it's like a dessert that maybe that you get once a year for Diwali as an example, right? It's your favorite thing in the world, okay? Now, again, this could be a really good opportunity to practice that moderation. So, you know, give yourself some limits, give yourself some rules to be like, I'm going to have one piece of this dessert. I'm going to share it with my friend or my family member. I'm going to have like 2 or 3 bites and that's it. You know, that's your goal for the day, right? And, you know, from what we see, I'm sure you would agree, our members who learn how to practice moderation versus abstinence are the ones who actually succeed over the long term. The ones who I see struggle the most are the ones who are like, I'm going to be perfect, you know? And then as soon as that little bit of imperfection comes in, they just go ballistic and they go mental, go, well, I've ruined it. May as well ruin the next 2 months, you know?
Yeah, the floodgates are open.
Yeah.
I was I wrote a little mini reflection myself that I published after. It was like seven hacks that have helped me stay in shape. Because I think in the last 18 to 24 months, I've managed to stay as lean as the leanest I've ever been in my life for as long a period with the least amount of restriction. And ironically, the most amount of travel. So it's like all the different things. And I thought, what have been some key things in there? One of them was, you know, every night I have my silken tofu dark chocolate mousse, right? And on there sits a little Oreo biscuit, right? Just every day I have an Oreo biscuit. And I thought,
but that's processed.
Yeah, it's processed, yeah. And I thought to myself, that practice of like one Oreo biscuit with one dark chocolate mousse that I make from silken tofu and dark chocolate. And I thought it's so like 10 years ago, that would have been so hard to just have one, because I would have been like one, then I've gone up again, had another one, gone up again, had another one. Oh, why not just have another? Well, I'll just finish the pack, all right? Because it's so easy to finish those Oreo biscuit packs. Now I get to the end of these Oreo biscuit packs and they're like, you know, they're kind of like gone stale a bit because they've been open for so long.
But you keep eating them, right? Well, you used to, you know, even though they go off, right?
Well, no, as in, you know, now because it's open for so long.
Oh,
so long to eat it. By the time I get to the end, they're like kind of stale.
Yeah, that's
I thought that's probably one of the biggest things that's changed for me. And when I go to these events now, like I'm fine having a dessert because I eat dessert most nights. And one of the reasons is because I've managed to get myself to the point where I can just have that one dessert. Exactly. Or a right portion size dessert versus having like, you know, endless amounts where I'm feeling sick, about to throw up, and you know, all that bad stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And you've also just taken that dessert off a pedestal, right? Because I think, you know, we did this as we're growing up. You know, the whole like chicken, rice, and broccoli, that's all we ever used to eat. The whole like clean versus dirty foods, good versus bad foods. And when you have that mentality, right? Oh, let's go for that one. I eat clean all week and then have that one cheat meal. That type of mentality, I think that's what really causes people to lose a lot of control, right? But what sounds like what you've done and what a lot of our members have also done over years of their journey, right? This doesn't happen overnight. You don't just start day one and you start doing this type of stuff. There is a process, but yeah, it's pretty much equalizing all foods, right? So your dark chocolate mousse with your Oreo is the same. It's on the same level as like your tofu scramble.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's not like that is this superior meal that you have above all else. It's literally just part of your normal meal plan. It's off the pedestal, right? So that whenever you do go out or when you go to a place, it's not something that you've never seen before. You're like, okay, it's a dessert. Who gives a shit? You know, It's just something that it's not a big thing for you, and you can have a little bit and be like, cool, I'm done. You know, and as we know, the first bite is always the best bite, right?
Yeah.
Why go further than that? No one ever finishes a tub of ice cream with that last bite being like, that was it. That's what I was looking for this whole time. I'm glad I took down 2 kilos of ice cream.
So that's what you've done then, yeah? Try and find the best bite.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I remember like there was this a couple of Christmases. Christmas used to be like a big thing in my head, and I used to do so. There's a hill sprints were part. That was sorry, it was Boxing Day. It was hill sprints.
What's
Um,
deplete the glycogen?
yeah, just the yeah, and then but Christmas morning I used to find the rare gyms that were open. You know, like it was the hardcore like, oh, I'm training on Christmas Day. Who else? Who's not training on Christmas Day? You know, you and it's always the hardcore bodybuilding gyms that were open, and everyone in there was like, oh yeah, you know, everyone's feeling really proud of themselves for being there. And it was always high volume legs. Like it had to be high volume, you know, sets of 20, deplete as much as possible. And the whole build up, like the 5 days before was like low carb,
Yeah.
you know, just
Exactly.
how much depletion can I get? And then how many omega-3s going to have to like prime my insulin receptors? And then I was doing like, I remember reading like the 4 Hour Body, like, you know, that book from Tim Ferriss many years ago. I remember reading something in there saying like, oh yeah, if you do 30 squats in between before a cheat meal, all the insulin receptors are going to be ready to take in the nutrients. So I used to be that guy like before Christmas dinner. Hold on a sec, guys. Just going to go pop to the loo, go to the toilet. I bang out 30 reps. 30 reps of squats. I come back out feeling like my legs are super pumped. I'm ready to like take on these Christmas calories. I look back and I'm like, damn man, that's pretty cringe, isn't it? Thinking about it.
It is. But see how much like cognitive effort went into all that. Like, see how much preparation that is.
Yeah,
And then the thing is, and you still end up overdoing it, right? Because the mentality is, well, I've done all this work. I don't even have to worry about it now. I just go absolutely ballistic. It never works. And this is another reason why, you know, we've moved away from this whole like buffering mindset as well. Because
well, let's touch on that.
yeah, I think it's one of the most destructive things that you can do for your relationship with nutrition in general. Even when you think it's helping you bank calories, I still don't think it is, because what happens is number one, if you're doing the whole like reducing your calories throughout the week, if you're already in a deficit and then you start reducing your calories even more, you're just compromising performance in the gym. You're compromising how you feel. You're just compromising everything throughout the week, thinking about how much you're going to eat on the Saturday or the Sunday, and then what you're doing. All you're thinking about the whole week, because we've all been there. All you're thinking about the whole week is that cheat meal.
One meal. Yeah.
That one meal. And now every other meal that you have in relation to that meal is just shit. Everything that you eat up until that point, you're like, whatever, just got to get this down so I can have this massive cheat on the Saturday, right? And it just, you literally, your whole life just ends up revolving around this one cheat meal that you're going to have on the Saturday or whatever it is. And then what happens is you get there and you just end up overdoing it way more than you even planned, because you're already going in with excess hunger. Okay. In your brain, you're like, well, I've suffered all week, therefore I deserve this whole like deserve food mentality. Maybe we don't have time to talk about it today, but maybe we can touch on it as well. And then people just, it's just like, you know, when people reward themselves with food, it's just like, I've been good today. I've done a hard day's work. I'm going to go binge on ice cream. Or I've had a stressful day. I want to reward myself with food because I handled that stress so well, you know? And the way I've sort of mentioned this to other members as well, who've sort of said the same thing, because it's a very common thing. It's just like, that's sort of like an alcoholic rewarding themselves with like one beer after a week of being sober. It's just like, well, I've been sober for a week. I may as well just have a couple of drinks to, reward myself, And then another way to think about this, rewarding yourself with food is, one thing I like to sort of remind people of is that you're not a dog. You don't have to reward your good behavior with treats. Okay. So yeah, this whole like reward mindset around food, I think is very common, but it's also very damaging in the long term as well. I find people then use it as an excuse to eat whenever. I've had a hard day. I deserve this food. I've done something good. I deserve this food. I've had bad sleep. I deserve this food. It's a really, really toxic connection that you have with food, right? I know that's not the topic of today, but yeah, in saying that, with people that are banking calories, trying to buffer, trying to do all this fancy stuff to make room for more calories at these events, I think you're missing the forest for the trees here. And instead, what you should be doing is like, why do you have to eat like a maniac in the first place at these events? That's the question you want to be asking yourself. Everything you're doing is trying to justify eating like a maniac, when maybe the solution is to be like, maybe I shouldn't eat like a maniac and just enjoy the day, enjoy the food in moderation. and not end up in a food coma on the night, and then claim it as a refeed day, bro.
Yeah. Yeah, if you go into the event not feeling starving and you just had a normal day's food, you probably will eat less as well, and by default, because it's not a big deal. I think the other thing to think about is, especially at events like Christmas or Thanksgiving or Diwali or whatever it may be, is eating. Like people drink for confidence. Like social drinking just for
Social lubricant. Yep.
just feeling confident. Yeah, social lubricant. It was probably the same as with food as well. It's like you want to have a canapé in your hand, you want to be eating with others, you don't want to feel like you're not taking part. There's probably an element of that, and like tuning into trying to be aware of, like, when you go to see some of these events, like, why do I want just to pick at things, because picking at things is like another way of, like, it's a social lubricant, right? You don't feel like you're doing nothing, because no one wants to, like, just be standing there. So you'd rather be like looking around at the food and like picking at things. So at least if someone's looking at you, they're like, oh yeah, he's just getting his food, or like, she's, and then you can make conversation about it with someone else at the buffet stand, being like, oh yeah, that you try that thing, or it suddenly becomes like a social thing. So that's another thing to tune into that I've noticed I've had to work on myself, over the last few years, is like tuning into, like, when I'm just picking at things because I'm either bored or I'm a bit nervous because I'm like in a new scenario, or I don't want to come across. I don't want to, because you don't want to. You don't have anything to talk about, so you just sort of just start picking at things. I don't know if you've ever been in that situation, but I think that's just with alcohol. That's another way foods used at these events.
And it's another thing that, like, I sometimes recommend to clients who do have a few issues with this stuff, because we can't just expect them to be like, well, just don't do any of it.
Yeah,
I like the sort of in between solution of have something in your hand. So usually, if that's like a diet soda, even if it's like a water, or even if you want to have an alcoholic beverage, go for it. Like, I find that having something in your hand, and I think I've read research on this as well. Like, having something in your hand just can reduce a bit of anxiety and that type of stuff. And it gets you feeling more comfortable. But yeah, you're right. If you've got nothing in your hand, then you start just like picking at stuff, or because you feel a bit nervous, right? You're trying to quell the stress, right, with food or with alcohol or with something, because you're not confident in your abilities to maybe converse without having to snack. All right. So yeah, I think it's important to recognize that. I don't think many people know that they are doing that. They are doing that because they are probably feel a little bit uncomfortable and awkward. And yeah, no, I've definitely been in the same boat as well. But
well, one of the things I used to do a lot of, and sometimes I'll still do it, is I'll just go to the toilet. I'll just, like, if I can't be asked, I'll just go for a quote unquote piss, just to, like, because it just takes me out of maybe because I'm an introvert, you're also an introvert, right? So it's like, for me, getting out of the event when I'm in it can help, like, just sort of like, oh my God, this is too much. I just need to go for a fake piss. It just kills time. It gives you
we got a phone call.
Yeah. It gives you a focus point, right? And I remember reading stuff on, like, actually, speaking of phones, I remember reading stuff around, like, when you are like an introvert and people take their phones out at a social event to, like, just do nothing really, but it can act as like a mini recharge point for introverts. Like, even if you're just, like, I don't know, writing notes or whatever, texting someone, it just gives you that break from it.
Yeah.
Whereas some people can be the life of the party and just they almost forget to eat, right? They forget to eat, and then there are people like that as well.
Yeah.
Whereas I think if you're more of an introvert, you're coming in there and you're like, you need ways to, like, distract yourself, especially if you don't know people well, or you're at a new event, or you just don't like people there. That could be another thing. Like, if it's at some of these family events, like, you might not actually want to really be there, like, as bad as that may sound. But I think it's more true than we probably think.
Agreed. Yeah, no, I 100% agree. I know exactly what you mean with regards to, and if you are more introverted and you feel a bit more uncomfortable in social scenarios, and if this is like your first, like, holiday period going in, like, I definitely recommend, this is probably another thing that we'll talk about, is like communicating your intentions to people prior. I think that could be really, really helpful. Especially, I know it's a lot worse in the UK because people love to give each other shit in the UK. Yeah. But if you show up to a party, and then you just start saying no to everything because, oh, I'm on a diet, no one likes that type of attitude, right?
Yeah.
So communicating your intentions potentially with a few close friends or even the hosts and whatnot, if you approach them sincerely and you communicate like a few days out, that could really go a long way. To quell that. And because, again, if you also suffer from a bit of anxiety as well, being able to quell that with that, I think can really go a long way too. So you don't feel that pressure to eat when you're there. Because I know it can be very hard when people are like forcing food down your throat or saying, hey, have this, have this, have this, have this. For those situations, I have another tip as well, which is instead of just saying like outright no, you can be like, not now, but I'll have some later.
Yeah, that's what I do. Yeah, and laugh it off. Yeah, no. I'll have it in a sec. I don't know. So just give me a sec. Just gonna pop to the loo.
Exactly. Or another one could be like, hey, if it's getting towards the end of the night or whatnot, and people are trying to give you stuff, you're like, no, I won't have it now, but I'll definitely take some for tomorrow. Can I take some home? So it makes the host feel like you're not being rude, that you're still engaging and this and that. And then you just give it to someone on the way out.
Or just say you've already had it. Oh, I just had a bite of that. Let me just give me a second. I'll have it again.
Yeah, exactly. So it's not you just being like, no, I'm on a diet. It's just you diverting and being like, hey, no, it's okay. I'll have some later. Thank you anyway.
Right? It's less confrontational, right? When you say it that way as well, because when you say diet, they get their arms up. You feel like an idiot. You already feel like an idiot.
Great. You look great at 100 kilos. You don't need a diet.
Yeah. I mean, on the same note, maybe there's an element like some people might need to have some tips around. Let's say they have been on a diet. They've gone from 100 kilos to 70 kilos. No one's seen them in a year. It's the first Christmas. Yeah. They're not seeing them since last Christmas. They turn up. In their heads, they were expecting one person. Turn up. This guy's 30 kilos lighter. Yeah. Oh my God, you look ill. What are you doing? Make sure you eat today. Well, let's feed you up today. All of that stuff's going to come in. And now because your brain isn't quite there yet in this new identity, you're a bit like, fuck, like have I made the right decision? Like, what should I be doing? How do I navigate this? I feel like a twat. Like, you'll feel horrible. And if you don't know many people there who are like supportive, maybe it's just your partner. And you can't expect them to like defend your battles. It's not always going to happen. It can be really tough. Like that's a real tough experience.
It can be really tough. And the funny thing is the people who are making these like ill comments are the ones who then they look ill the most. You know what I mean? Because they are usually just deflecting their own insecurities on people, because at the end of the day, they would love to be able to do what you're doing and they're just trying to put you down. It's very, very similar to the people that heckle others for not drinking. My good friends that I go out with, they'll never heckle me for a drink. They'll never say, hey, just have this, just have that. They know me. They've known me for a good while. They'll still invite me out, still go out. It's not an issue. You know what I mean? Your true friends and the people that actually support you, they know that what you're doing is for your own interest. And these other people who are trying to put you down for your decisions, people never try. What's that comment? People only try to tear people who are above them, never below them. Yeah. So they'll try to bring you down to their level by telling you, just eat, just do this, just do that. They want to see you. They want to pull you back down to where they are. Right. And that is unfortunate because people that actually support you in your goals, they will never do that. They'll be like, do you keep doing what you're doing? It's great. You feel great. You look great. Keep doing that, And not just another simple thing to remember is, would you want to look like or feel like the people that are giving you this advice in the first place?
Yeah.
Probably not. You know what I mean? Like, ask yourself that. The person that's giving you that comment, do you want to be them? Yes or no? If no, there's your answer.
Yeah. I mean, let's touch on guilt then, because let's say, for example, you go into this event with every best intention you've got. You've listened to this, you've done all the right things, but you still mess up, right? And then you wake up the next day, or you get in the car on the way home, and you're just racked with guilt. Like you just I just fucked up, I messed up, it's all over, sort of thing. Yeah. How do you like reconcile the guilt or should there be guilt? And then how do you, outside of the obvious, just get back on it the next day? How do we avoid going run a marathon? Because even if we say just do the normal thing, we've all been there where the normal thing. So you say 10K steps? Sorry, I did 20. And in your own head, you're having this own battle of I need to do more. I will have a little bit less food, even if you know you're not doing the right thing. You're start almost like abusing yourself and
punishing yourself.
Yeah. Even if you shouldn't be doing this, it goes like completely opposite now. Yeah. For 5 days until the weight goes back to where it was.
Yeah, and it's hard. It's very, very hard. A lot of people attach their nutritional decisions to their moral self as well, which I think is a big mistake. Like you're not morally any better because you had vegetables. You know what I mean? I think it's important to detach from that. I think a lot of people maybe maybe it's that sense of losing control that makes them feel guilty. And I understand that feeling as well. But instead of feeling guilty, just ask yourself, okay, try to reflect on what went wrong, why you ended up acting the way you did. And then just looking back and be like, damn, what could have I done better? You know, how could I have improved on that situation? Or even ask yourself, was the way that I handled last night better than what I did like a year ago or 6 months ago? Right? If yes, that's still like progress in the right direction. You know what I mean? So I don't think you should ever feel guilty about eating anything unless you're a vegan and you ate an animal, then probably feel guilty, right? But you know, if you've never like, there shouldn't be any guilt associated with your food choices. Just, you know, if you've had like a dessert, you had some quote unquote junk food, like I think removing that whole guilt is extremely valuable. Because I've noticed the people that feel the most guilt with they don't end up making better decisions over the long term anyway. They just still fall into this vicious cycle. But when they remove themselves from that and they take a more flexible approach, or they learn to live in the gray zone, which is what I like to say, that guilt around food disappears, but also their decision making around food also improves. You know, so it's like this weird catch-22. When you remove this crazy high expectation of yourself with regards to having to eat a certain way, you end up actually just making better choices regardless. It's strange, you know? So yeah, do I think anyone should feel guilty about making any nutritional decisions? Absolutely not. I still recommend the following day, getting up, doing what you normally do. Don't skip breakfast, just have your normal breakfast. Even if you may feel like a little bit fuller, whatever, just get your goal for the next day should just be getting back to normal and then reflecting on what happened and then asking yourself, damn, what went wrong? Oh, I know what it was. It's because I was talking to my mother-in-law or what have you. And then she just kept, I just couldn't handle the conversation. So I just kept eating. I don't know I'm going to have, I don't know when she's going to get pregnant, you know? And then you can sort of reflect on that for next time and be like, okay, what could have I done differently? Could I have handled that situation better? Do I need to work on my social skills more? Do I need to work on my conversation skills? Did I not eat for like half the day? And that's why I ended up going crazy, you know? So always reflect on what happened and then see if you can make better choices for the next time. But there shouldn't be any guilt. Don't do any excess cardio or activity the following day to punish yourself. Just reflect on it, see what you can do better, and then try to improve for next time.
Yeah. The thing you just mentioned, the example you gave is probably a very common one. Maybe not mother-in-law, but it could be mother-in-law, it could be someone else. But especially if you're at the dinner table, like let's say you got the food all in the middle and you're all at the dinner table, there's like 8 of you. And you don't know what to say, so you can just focus on your food. You just pick a bit more. And next thing you know, you've had about 5 plates without realizing. And you get to the end of the conversation, and sometimes you might not even realize what's happened because you're just in either a panic state, you're in a nervous state, or you're just not even thinking about your food. You're just shoveling it down because you're either trying to get through the conversation or you're trying to figure out a way to conversate. So I think if you can just dial in your presence on that, it will really help. And again, tougher in the moment than just hearing this, but these are some things I think will really help. Just again, take away the emphasis of the occasion, because it's not like any other dinner. So it's not like suddenly because it's Christmas Day, this dinner is different. It's just a normal dinner, but it's just on a different day. And with a bit of decoration around it, and you might have a cracker in between you. That's all that's changed.
This is being mindful, and I've always said, like, if you're the life of the party and you're enjoyable to be around, you're happy, you're conversing with everyone, like, no one cares how much you're drinking and eating. They really don't. Like, if you're there for a good time and you're being a fun person to be around, not many people are going to hassle you. So if you find yourself just going for food to kill the void or fill the time, then it's the food. The food here is not the solution, right? The solution is getting better at social scenarios.
Yeah, but just to caveat that though, because if you hear that, you might think, oh, I need to be the life of the party. But if that's just not your personality, or if that's like if that idea is like quite scary, then that's not the thing, right?
No, that's not what I mean. It's not.
Yeah, I think what you do mean though is that no one actually cares if you're eating or drinking. That's probably like the overarching sentiment.
You care more than anyone, right? Yeah. It's the whole fear of I don't want to go to the gym because I think everyone's looking at me. It's like, you're not that important. No one cares what you're doing in the gym. Just go in there, because everyone's too focused on themselves. you know?
Yeah.
So I've never left a party being like, oh, I can't believe Matt had 11 drinks and 5 canapes. You know, like I've never left a party knowing how much any guest has consumed. You know, like I've not kept.
If anything, you've calculated all their calories, no?
Exactly. It's like, oh, he's definitely over today. Yeah, he's definitely over. You know, but the point I'm trying to make here
Yeah,
is that no one cares as much as you do,
yeah.
right? So
I guess the next question is like, or the topic of discussion is when do you need to be on it over these like next 6 weeks? And when is it okay to be a bit like 80-20, let's just maintain these next 6 weeks and make sure we don't go backwards. Like what are the different sort of examples here?
yeah, and that's a good question. Moderation is going to look very different to different people depending on where they are in the journey as well. So if you have a photo shoot coming up in the next few weeks of us recording this, then like you're just going to have to say no to pretty much everything and be like, look, I have this big goal. Because the thing is, when you are preparing for a shoot or something big like that, everything that you do matters and everything you do is going to show up on that day.
Yeah.
And it's just the way it is. And, you've, no one's forced you to do it. You've chosen to do this. This is something that, you've decided to do. You have put this restriction on yourself, which is great. That's fantastic for your character development. It's going to serve you well over the long term. But for this holiday period, you've got to suck it up and you just got to be like, cool, I'm just saying no to everything. I'm going to eat out of my Tupperware as much as I can. I'm just going to eat according to my meal plan. It is what it is. You guys can either deal with it or not.
Yeah.
In that situation, I think that type of mentality is going to be super important. And I think it's also important to keep this in mind that this is literally one holiday period out of your entire life. A big thing I like to say to a lot of our members is, say no temporarily so you can say yes forever.
Yeah.
Right. 6 months of saying no a lot more so you can then say yes for the rest of your life. I think that's a pretty good trade-off, and think about it. Every other Diwali up until this one, you've gone mental, right? Let's be honest. So maybe just pulling it back for one Diwali and being like, you know what, I'm just going to have no treats, I have no nothing, see what happens, and just go with it. You have a shoot coming up. It's super important. So the tighter you can be with your nutrition in that specific circumstance, the better the outcome is going to be. And you're going to show up on shoot day being very happy you did it,
Yeah. And the other one I'd say is that if you're very new to starting, whilst you may not be as strict as, say, someone doing a photo shoot, I think you want to be pretty damn close because otherwise you're in the danger of not actually building any momentum. There's nothing worse than, say, starting a journey in like October or November, and you spend end of November all the way through to January 1st, just on and off, on and off, on and off, on and off. And you never really get that momentum. And I think if you spent, decades not having good habits, and then you just spend the first month trying to like do this, but you're not really doing it, you just spin your wheels and you don't actually get off the ground. Even though you got January 1st around the corner, you kind of mentally just haven't capitalized on that momentum period that's so important at the beginning. So I think that's the other time where even if you haven't got a shoot, you've got a lot of weight to lose. It's just that you've had, like you said, you've had decades of amazing, quote unquote, amazing food periods for your holidays. Just have one period where you reset the bar and build some momentum, because then you're going to be loving yourself for that in January. In January, when the end of Jan comes around and you've got that momentum just rushing through, by March, April, May, you could be unrecognizable. But spend the holiday period on off dieting, but not dieting, getting no results for your efforts, you're going to think, oh, screw it. I'll just spend 6 to 8 weeks anyway, not really getting anywhere. I'll just wait another year.
Exactly. No, I like that. That's 100%. I agree. And I think it's a great chance just to go in head first and start establishing some good habits. And that momentum gatherer, I think, is so important for people who are just starting. And if you just started like a month ago and now you've got the holiday period coming up, that can literally set you back. I'm pretty sure people gain the most weight between November and January. Like that's an actual real thing. So but to prevent that, you can just go in with a bit of a more stricter, quote unquote, mentality and just be like, look, I spent every other Diwali eating everything under the sun. Going with one Diwali just eating normally, or not normally, eating in this new way is only going to do me a world of good.
Yeah. But this will come out after Diwali, so you can apply it to Thanksgiving, Christmas, parties. birthdays,
Exactly.
whatever it may be. Is that an actual fact, by the way? November 1st to January 1st is the period you
So
game.
between October and January, especially in the States, it's definitely a thing. Yeah.
Yeah,
Where
because they got the additional Thanksgiving, haven't they?
yeah. But
And Halloween's a bigger thing there than it is here. In the UK, I don't think it's big, but it's nowhere near like as big as in the US. It's
yeah.
huge. Yeah.
Yeah. But again, all these holidays are just celebrated with food, and I get it. It's just something that everyone's been culturally brought up with, and it's hard to break that. It's hard to shake that. But if you want to get the results that you've come here for, and that you've always wanted, let's be honest, like you're gonna have to change these things. You can't expect to eat the same way and have a different physique a year from now. Just can't. Like you got to ask yourself, what's more important? Being the king or the queen of the kitchen at Diwali and Christmas and Thanksgiving, or having the physique of your life forever, And I know the other one, the latter, takes a long time to develop, but it's going to be the best thing you can ever do for yourself over the long term, for sure.
Yeah. A few hours versus a few decades. Which one do you want?
Exactly.
Boom. I think that's a wrap.
Nice.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, guys.